جزى الله أصحاب النبي.
miracle mubarak imari kungola kedimi bam foy cokkola kedimi wala ntuma e bata ko soro futu wala karola wala ntuma kono demi bambala wala katuta mari la sibo kala ntama ka wala keba imari mo molti mi yalla ko setano wala be muta wala ke muta ta miracle mubarak men frale bundum pitiki yasin ani frere je dro ni ala yede may ni la sasa nyim fombe tala pundimi bambalo wala katuta mari la ba wala foy mari mo molti mi yalla ko fa e kasila ngola soto ba imari mo molti mi yalla ko fam be ka bata ko soto futu wala karola bam wala ntuma mari mo moldi mi yalan ko yela selo wala ke muta bam ta miracle mubarak mi yalan ko fam borol kendema mi yalan ko be mo fen sila mo fen borol de anon kila sallallahu alaihi wasallam jara lol be laari wala silo ka fura miracle mubarak men fura le bundum biti kiasan wala e nomba ko mande 718 446 718 4446 718 4446 o nomba ko mande alkured al mubarak ñun nenata nan ka jama da han
خلافة عباس ودين نبينا.
Good morning to you all. Welcome to the press conference of the National Association of Gambian Nurses and Midwives. I am Usman Toure, the Secretary General and Chair to this conference. And first I would like to thank everyone for being here. It's part of national duty to ensure that the health and safety of the public is not put at risk by the deciders. On my right is the President of the Association, Yusuf Asanyang. Next to him is the PRO of the association, Sanadabo. Next to that is the auditor of the association, Famara Sanyang, the treasurer, Abdul Karim Fofana, and the assistant treasurer, Sajo Sambu. The rest of the committee are engaged on some other matters relating to the same activity. That is why they are not around. And we say a big thank you to the nurses that are here to make sure they represent their respective institutions. Since it is a press conference, we decide to put patient safety and care as the foremost priority and make sure that only a limited number are representing us. Thank you. Today's conference is a very important one. And I would like to give a brief background to the conference before inviting the President and the PRO who will be giving the remarks and also the press statement. This conference is about allowance increment scheme. You will be flabbergasted to know that these allowances are allowances that have been set even before I was born. They remained the same until I was born. I went through school and they still remain the same. And I am serving as a nurse and they are still the same. Imagine in the past, before 1991, allowances that have been pegged at, let's say, $100, $200, are still the same allowances that are being paid to some nurses. So I want people to know that this is not a fight for greed, but a fight for movement that is going to motivate nurses to stay working and committed to their responsibilities. In order to ensure this, remuneration is key. And this is not just my statement, but the first ever, the State of the World Nursing Report of the WHO has this statement: the education, leadership, and remuneration of nurses is very important in order to attain universal health coverage. On that note, I welcome you all here and invite the President of the Association, Mr. Yusuf Asanyang, to say a few words.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Usman Toure, the Secretary General of the Association. And I just want to take this opportunity to invite the media and we want to say we apologize for the late start due to some hitches, but thank you very much for honoring our individual. And I think it's a national duty, as he rightfully said, and we want to thank you for the good job you are doing. So on that note, I just want to read a brief remark, welcoming remark, and later the PRO will give the press statement. So good afternoon. I say it is indeed a great pleasure to see you around, and I would like to express my sincere thanks to the press for their noble endeavor to contribute towards the development process as nurses in our efforts to provide quality healthcare to the Gambian population. As nurses, we have always formed the majority of healthcare providers and have been serving as the backbone of the health sector, as well as always being at the forefront of providing quality health care. Considering the important role we play within the healthcare sector, as well as forming the largest workforce, we have formed this nursing association that will represent our common interests without regards to nationality, race, ethnicity, creed, and religion. This we feel will enable us to effectively improve the working conditions within the health facilities and further contributes to improving the quality of healthcare delivery. Ladies and gentlemen, our association seeks to improve the welfare of nurses so as to have a well-motivated workforce that will provide quality services to the Gambian people. Our mission is to actively contribute towards the improvement of nursing practice that will bring about improved healthcare for the Gambian populace through the creation of conducive working environment that will contribute to the improvement of quality of life of nurses. The purpose of the National Association of Gambian Nurses and Midwives is to represent its members, always serve as their voices, and advocate for their rights. We play a vital role in healthcare delivery of the country. As nurses working in various health facilities, we are the ones at the front lines, providing hands-on care to the patients and giving the doctors the information they need to make decisions for their patients' care. We comprise the largest single component of health staff in the Gambia, and we are the primary providers of hospital patient care. And we deliver most of the care prescribed by the physician. As one highly educated individual said, you know it or not, if you walk into the healthcare system, you are going in to receive nursing care. So this is how important nurses are. And allow me to give this simple analogy of a football team to make people understand how important nurses are. If hospitals were a football team, nurses would be the whole defense and the offense. That means if you don't have a good strikers, you'll not be able to score your goal. And if you don't have good defenders, you'll not be able to defend yourself from conceding goals. So that's the state of nurses here. If you don't have a well-motivated nursing workforce, the population will not receive the quality nursing care, and the damage it will cause to the public will be irreparable. At the same time, that's why it is highly needed to motivate us to provide necessary care we have. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to quote a very important statement by the Executive Director of the Global Health Workforce Alliance, who recently said, "There is no health without a health workforce, and no workforce without nurses and midwives." So that means if they are absent, there will be no health force, because they are the ones there daily to provide the necessary care. They further stated that even in countries where there are woeful shortages of skilled health professionals, including midwives, nurses, and physicians, nurses are responsible for the care of the widest range of people and the widest geographic area, which is very definitely true of the Gambia. Any health facility you go in, you must find a nurse. No health facility can exist without a nurse or midwife being present at that facility. So given the vital position and crucial roles nurses play in the healthcare delivery setting, they must be given the necessary support to properly execute their functions. These supports include providing them with materials needed for patient care, good remunerations, educational opportunity, to mention but a few. Ladies and gentlemen, as nurses working in various health settings in the Gambia, we feel we need the highest level of support in our drive to provide quality health care to the Gambian population. For us to function effectively, we need sustained availability of materials to provide good nursing care, good motivational facilities in terms of training opportunities, a conducive and safe environment for patients, and above all, we need a good remuneration system. Ladies and gentlemen, it will be quite disheartening to know that despite the important status of nurses in this country, we are constantly affected by inadequate supply of materials to properly perform our duties, few training opportunities for us, and above all, a very few incentives. These factors are causing great demotivation to the nurses and are affecting the ability of the government to retain the necessary human resources, especially nurses. And this has always resulted in chronic shortage of nursing staff, which places a huge burden on the remaining few in our health facilities. Ultimately, the innocent patients cannot have the needed nursing care they deserve due to high patient-to-nurse ratio. These are some of the challenges that the association have been seeking to address through a series of dialogue with the Ministry of Health and relevant stakeholders, but the status quo remains. We therefore invite the press here today to share with them some of these challenges and our desire to ensure they are taken care of. I don't want to keep you waiting for a long time because most of our demands are also included in the press statement. So on this note, I want to thank the media and all our nursing colleagues that are around. I thank you very much for gracing our invitation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, for those wonderful remarks. It is very important for us to put attention on the key points raised by the President, that wherever there is a shortage in the nursing sector, healthcare is compromised. And the ultimate price is paid by the public that we serve, not the policymakers, hardly the people that are serving in the health sector. One way or the other, we can find our way to sort out ourselves. But how about the public that we serve, the majority, the people that deserve better? And that is why we are here, because we want them to know what we are going through that can impede the services that they are having the right to receive. So on that note, I wouldn't waste much of your time. The most important statement that keeps us here is going to be read by the PRO of the association, Mr. Sanadabo. I welcome you to go ahead.
Thank you very much, the Secretary General of the Association, Mr. Usman, and the President, and my fellow Executive Committee members, members of the press, nurses and midwives here present. Good afternoon to all of you. The National Association of Gambia Nurses and Midwives today, 26th April 2021, hosts a press briefing, a press conference, to call on the Gambia government to honor the request of nurses and midwives by accepting the proposed allowance scheme that was submitted to the Ministry of Health. Since November 2020, the National Association of Gambia Nurses and Midwives Association made a proposal to the Ministry of Health for the increment of allowances, which was rejected by the Personal Management Office. The association further raised the same matter with the Secretary General and Head of Civil Service, the Honorable Minister of Health. All means of diplomacy were followed. On the instruction of the Ministry of Health, the new proposed allowance was developed. This was presented to the Ministry of Health, but all efforts by the representative of the NAGAM went futile. The reverse allowance scheme was proposed as a means of motivating nurses and midwives who had been sidelined by the increment of the recent allowance for the doctors and PhD holders who do not provide direct hands-on care and does not work insoluble hours. Over the years, nurses and midwives have been struggling with the limited resources, minimal opportunities to grow, lack of training opportunities, as well as poor remunerations. It is under these unsatisfactory working conditions that makes it very difficult for the critical caregivers in government services to continue providing quality and the highest amount of health services to the Gambian population. Due to the lack of motivational packages for nurses and midwives, the government of the Gambia continues to lose essential workers to private and diaspora. These have resulted in a chronic shortage of nurses and midwives in the Gambia. The current ratio of nurse to patient in this country is less than 1 per 10,000. 1 for 10,000 population, one of the worst in Africa. This affects most of the patients' outcome in irreparable ways. Ladies and gentlemen, this pandemic is a clear testament to the important role nurses play in our healthcare delivery system. Currently, more individuals are getting ill, with complications resulting in an overwhelming pressure on few bedside nurses available to deliver appropriate and quality care. Nurses and midwives work long hours caring for COVID patients, critically ill patients at intensive care units, maternity ward, renal dialysis units, and etc. They are always stretched beyond limits. Despite all this, the government of the Gambia continues to insensitive and inconsiderate of the tremendous sacrifice of these great health caregivers. Already, we have lost 2 of our colleagues to COVID-19, and many of them have contracted the virus in their line of duty. Ladies and gentlemen, it is disheartening to know that, it is disheartening to inform you that we, the National Association of Gambian Nurses and Midwives, usually have to pay for the health care services given to many of these nurses and midwives when he or she falls sick. Where is the consideration for the government, the consideration for nurses and midwives in this country? We gathered here today to express our dismay and lack of commitment and disregard of Gambia through diplomatic means. And we are again ready to meet the highest authorities to discuss these important matters. However, negotiations cannot be forever. We need an urgent decision from the Gambia government to avert any future health crisis in this country. By this, we demand a final meeting from the government stakeholders on or before on the 28th of this month. If the government of the Gambia fail to respond to us, if the government of the Gambia did not hear from the nurses, if the nurses did not hear from the government of the Gambia on or before on the 28th of this month, the government of the Gambia will hear from the nurses. And the nurses will be on the front pages of the newspapers and the headlines of the news bulletins. Therefore, I thank you all. I thank the media and the nurses peer pressure.
Okay, thank you very much, PRO of the association, Mr. Sanadabo, for delivering that statement. And as it states, as it is stated in the State of the World Nursing Report, the first ever by the WHO, that it should take concerted efforts of all stakeholders, governments, for them to inform as best as possible. So thank you very much. Okay.
In your statement, you said the minister had instructed that you develop a new proposal, which you did, and it was rejected like the previous one. Did PMO advance any reasons as to why they keep rejecting the proposal?
Yes, thank you very much. You know, the first proposal was submitted in November. That was when the Ministry of Health will do a bilateral with PMO, and they will provide them suggested allowance for various healthcare workers, or various ministries will submit their proposed allowances. So that was rejected by the PMO. So when the budgets came out, we saw the budget, we did not see any allowance that we proposed. So we went to the Ministry of Health that we are still committed for them to pursue this matter. And, you know, he instructed us to draw a list of people that should benefit from that allowance. And that was done, and it was submitted. So what also happened was later, after the submission of that, we heard that the Gambia government has also increased allowance for certain sector of health workers. That is the minister and the people with PhD and some doctors working at the ministry. So that also prompted us to revise, to tell them, let them honor the rejected allowance by the PMO. So we are called to a meeting, and during that meeting they said they don't want to treat the allowance matter in a piecemeal. Like nurses bring their allowances, they consider that other maybe health sector workers may also bring forth other proposals. So they say we need to treat the matter holistically. That was what we agreed. We say, okay, because we don't want to see ourselves as someone selfish, we want everybody to, at least all the health sector workers to benefit. So that was what was done. And, you know, the amount raised was around, I think, 450 million. So that was one sent to the PMO. So what happened was PMO did not totally agree to the proposed amount on those allowances. So what they are offering is not pleasing to us, and we feel that we cannot accept that. Because since the allowances, as he said, time memorial, the allowances, they are just paying $200. For someone who you have to call late at night, 3 a.m., a woman is dying in labor. Come and rescue that individual. At the end of the month, with all that services, and anywhere in the world, you know, maternal mortality is one of the indicators of development in any country. So someone who is trying to contribute towards the reduction of that, you don't honor that individual for $200. And what the amount they are proposing is still far significantly lower than the amount. So we feel that...
Sorry,
this
200, could you break it down for us so we understand?
They are currently like the midwives, the on-call allowance for officers in charge, that are in charge of the facility, the head of the facility. And they might be midwife or any other carer that provide vital services on call. Because on call is usually when you close from your normal time. So this on call is like, for these midwives or in charge, is like you 24 hours, they don't close. Because any other issue, they are called. Any services that the patient need, they are called. Extra service that the one on duty cannot provide, they are called. And at the end of the month, you are paying that one $200 for that services.
For the whole month?
For the whole month, I'm telling you, $200. And the responsibility allowance also, you are going $200. So we made an offer, let them increase the amount. And already they are paying certain kind of $5,000. We made an offer for them to increase. But the counter offer the PMO is proposing, that is totally unacceptable to us again. So we feel that, you know, we need to call to inform the press, because the public also are stakeholders in this matter, so that they know any subsequent action by failure of them to comply to these proposals, it may lead to subsequent actions, so that the people will not be caught off guard. Okay, we heard what is the problem, but they should know beforehand this is the issue at hand, and these people definitely, they are not showing a lot of considerations. So this is the whole issue. I hope I answer your question, Claire. Okay.
My name is Landin Sise from Kedfa.
Okay.
Regarding your last statement, that's where I'm going to draw my attention, like the subsequent actions that you people will take. What is it that you are planning for a sit-down strike, nationwide sit-down strike, if government does not adhere to your rules? And then secondly, We've seen other institutions will go for, or organizations will go for a sit-down strike. When they are sitting, the government will come and promise them that, we will do this, and they will immediately resume work without the government doing that particularly. Would the Nurses Association and midwives do the same thing if the government promised to honor your proposals?
That constant promise, that's what in fact prompted to this news conference. But I hope and I wish they will not accept. I think everybody in this country should also pray for them to listen to our demands, because you don't want us to reach that level or at a place where we have to resort to sit down strike. If that happens, there will be a lot of health crisis in this country. So that's why now last day we said we give them this ultimatum, 28th of this month, that may be too late, before or before Thursday, they should respond to us. We are pursuing the line of dialogue as of now. But we said negotiation cannot be protracted forever. And if that happens, everybody will know that government of the Gambia is not committed to improving the health of this country. And when we resort to sit-down strike, the gains we have, the 20-year gains we have may be reversed to 50 years. I tell you that. Because of the significant roles nurses play. If you go to, example, the borderland village, what is the name? Where Samba is? Koina, you have the midwife there who is providing hands-on care. Example, if you bring a woman in abrupso placenta and she is bleeding massively, it is that midwife who have to intervene before he have the services of that doctor in Basse or any other place. So where there is no that midwife providing that services to arrest that woman's bleeding, give the necessary resuscitation, where will that midwife go, the woman go? You understand? So I think that's a food for thought for everyone and every citizen to know. Everyone can serve as an advocate for the nurses, for the government to listen to this demand. Because I know they themselves don't want to have a reversal of their gains. 20-year gain, if you sit down, you reverse, and you to regain that success also may take ages.
Okay,
so I hope I answer your question.
Word, you are saying that after 28, which is Thursday, the nations, the nurses will go for a nationwide sit-down strike, or what? Because I want to understand that statement. If you said a subsequent action will be taken, and then if the nurse in Koina is not, addressing that issue, meaning the nurse will not be working to address that issue, I want to understand that part.
Yeah, that's why I don't know whether I said, okay, I don't hope for the sit-down strike part for us to reach that stage. That's the responsibility. That the onus lies on them. They can avoid that.
So I'm saying, for example, after 28, if government did not respond to your request.
Yes, that depends. That depends. Yes.
If the government did not respond, then what will desire?
Thank you. You want to get a specific response?
Yes, a specific response, to be clear, because one thing, like this is media, we are working in the media. Anytime we come with something like this, like you don't mention anything like a sit-down strike. If I, read something and my headline is the nurses to embark on sit-down strike if government did not respond to their request, and then you people have all right to come and, refute the claim because you haven't mentioned it. That's why I'm asking whether after 28 May.
Want to know what is the next line of action from the nurses if the day could elapse? That's the 28th.
The 28th.
What can
okay.
we expect from you, the nurses?
That's fine. Thank you very much. I will give you a specific answer. We, as an executive committee, do not act on our own accords. We dance to the tunes of the people we lead. Before this day, there had been series of negotiations with this Ministry of Health, and the people that we lead have waited and waited, gone impatient, wanted to take action, and the only way of action would be a sit-down strike, but they heed to the advice of their committee. They trusted us with responsibility. If we fail on our ultimatum, then we don't have a choice than to let them decide on the action to take. And that, I strongly believe, will be a sit-down strike. If it happens to be another form of action, it is the members of the association that decides that. And they are stronger than us. The people that put you in position have the power, and you have the duty to serve them. And that is what we are doing. Thank you.
We are in the middle of a pandemic. I hope you guys also considering the consequences that there could be in the event of
Okay, the reason why we are here today, the proposal was first sent in November 2020. It was trashed out. We went and make efforts, took our time to calculate on the basis of the instructions of the Ministry of Health. Whatever instruction they gave us, we obey it fully, do what they expect us to do, get the assignment back to them. It is now the responsibility from the Ministry of Health to the PMO to yield results, and yet results are not yielded. So what happened is because of the consideration of the pandemic that kept us patient, that kept us coming. But we, the 10 members of the committee, are not the nurses of the country. We are just a part of it. So how about those people that are suffering there? Before the pandemic, they've been suffering. During the pandemic, they are suffering. And after the pandemic, they will continue to suffer. So now tell me, who should consider what? That is the point. We are serving a nation that has leaders responsible for the health of this nation. So if we have gone this far to dialogue with them to the best of our abilities to make sure we think of solutions as much as possible, suggestions as much as possible, but yet they are not doing what we expect them to do or something close to that, we are definitely going back to our people. We have failed in executing this. Do what you think should be best for you. And whatever mode of action the people that we lead takes is our mode of action. We don't leave our people in isolation by any means and not any time. So this is what we want to communicate clearly. What nurses decide, after all the trust and patience they have given us to solve their problems, we are not leaving them in isolation. I know that the people responsible are people who are very good. They wouldn't want to see Gambians suffer as much as we don't want to see Gambians suffer. So it is not in anybody's interest to see Gambians suffer for something that is a right to health. So we definitely don't think that they will neglect Gambians to that length.
I have a reason for asking this question. I understand your frustrations. I know you're fighting a just cause, but I have a reason for asking this question. That is why. And it's good that you know.
Okay, you understand.
Right, thank you.
Okay, so what do you
Yes,
say?
QTV. My question basically is about some of the challenges that you face when you're working, because we've been getting information that sometimes even basic equipment for you to work with, like gloves, are even a problem. How has this affected your work as healthcare workers?
Thank you for the question. That's a constant challenge. As nurses, we have one phrase that we usually use, and improvisation. And improvisation is not the best way of providing quality care. But you empathize people. You cannot say, okay, I don't have materials, I cannot improvise. And that's the constant, constantly present, and that's what has been constantly happening since, as someone says, chronic shortage of materials. And we always have to resort to improvisation. So definitely it affects your service. Mentally, physically, you name them. So definitely materials are very needed. Sometimes, in fact, we are more frustrated than the patients themselves. You see a patient that you can help, but because they have sort of a shortage of materials, unavailability of materials, you cannot do much. And you see the patient suffering. So that affects the nurses morally. And even research has shown that causes what we call lack of job satisfaction, boring, and you name them. So it's definitely a big problem for the okay.
I would like you to elaborate more on this shortage of materials. I just want to take 1 minute and say something about it. Good afternoon, everyone. I am Fatmata Kasama. I'm the Vice President. I decided to just sit behind just to be part of the general members. So, talking about this shortage of materials, this is something that has been ongoing since we joined the health system. It's something that has become normal in the health system. The government doesn't really care. Ministry of Health does not care. Hospital administrations or hospital management who we think will work with us, they don't really care. I'll take an example for myself. I have some of my colleagues here. I worked in the ICU and the accident and emergency unit. You come to work, you have one piece of glove that you will use to give medication for the whole ward. You can have a patient of a ward of 15 patients or 20. You will use one glove to give medication. When you come to syringes, I was on night duties. We will go to the duty room. They will count how many patients do you have in your ward. For example, if you have 10 patients, they will give you 10 syringes, needle and syringe. I will use one needle and syringe for your 10 p.m. medication. I'll keep it for the 12 a.m. medication and keep it again for the 6 a.m. medication for one patient. I'll put you at risk, put the other patients at risk, and put myself at risk. Sometimes we work without gloves. I have cleaned a patient who messed up without gloves. My colleague is there, Sarah. And what we got at the end of the month was they deducted $1,000 from our salaries because we could not have gloves to clean that patient. This is not just about saying one of the things that is happening. Mere oxygen, patients cannot have it. The energy you use running around the hospital to get resources is far more than the energy you put in taking care of the patient. That is what is happening all over the country. And when it comes to health equity in the Gambia, it's zero. Not everybody is equal when it comes to healthcare service in the Gambia. I've seen a couple of times, we have patients, they'll bring them into the ICU when they are not supposed to be there. The less privileged are dying somewhere when they need the service. But because you are from a high income or whatever class they categorize you, or you are from a VIP, either a minister also, they bring you there, or you will need a resource that is not available in the hospital currently, but it is in the store. Because you are a nobody, you are poor, you have no connection with anybody at the government level, nobody will come from their house to bring out that resources that you need. We are all human beings. But if somebody from the ministry of government, whatever sector, or you are part of the government facilities, heads or whatever, as long as you are considered as VIP, somebody will come out from their home, whether it's 3 a.m. or 4 a.m., to bring out whatever resources you need and give it to you. But the lay person, who is a less privileged person, will not have that opportunity. So we lack gloves in the hospital. Medications are never available. Hospital beds are never available. So it's normal to go to a hospital in the Gambia without hospital bed seats. But whenever somebody is coming from the ministry or the president is coming around, our so-called leaders will make sure even A&E, the beds, will have bed seats, which I feel is cheating. That is not supposed to be done. You know?
Thank you.
So I would just, I'm so emotional. I don't know when to talk like this, but I will just end my talk here. I'll resume my
You can sit down.
Sorry. Hello. Yes. Hello. Please, let's have one forum, please. Can we have silence? Please. Hello. Yes, Mr. Gajaka. We are here to talk about our frustrations. She don't say, she said a portion of it. I am the PRO of nurses and midwives in this country. I am telling you that there is no single nurse in this country. I am telling you there is no single nurse or a midwife in this country who will say, I have a medical insurance. If a nurse or midwife is sick, you are responsible of your own medication. You are responsible of your own lab fee. If I am in Banjul, I am sick, I go to secondary hospital. Any medication, any fee I will do, government don't care, Ministry of Health don't care about anything with regards to nurses. You have to struggle, your family members have to struggle to pay for your medication, to pay for your fees, and anything that you need. Currently, we have nurses in this country, veteran nurses, who spend more than 30 years in the system. You have to go for surgery for $80,000. His association is helping to raise $80,000 for nurses who spend 30 years in the system. We have nurses who are on medication. They cannot afford to buy this medication. They have to write to the association and other family members to help them. What is government doing for the nurses in this country? The glove that the woman is saying, nurses will use one pair of gloves and wash it, dry it. When it's dry, you use it again. And this could be detrimental to the health of the nurses and health of the patient that we are caring for. The president himself last week was going around to fix cannula for the patient with his bare hands. This is so risky. Without glove, continuously, and this more than 3 months now. Government officials don't care about our health system. When they are sick, they have the money, they can go anywhere to go for treatment. They leave us here because they don't want to invest much in our health system because they don't care. They don't want to bring their kids and their, themselves to our health system. That's why they are not investing. They don't care about nurses and midwives. That is why I am speaking on behalf of the nurses, in the voice of nurses, that we are giving the government ultimatum of on the 28th of this month. And if nothing is done, government will hear from us.
We protest that, and I think if not all, but majority of us have that COVID-19 allowance. But previously, it has never been like that in this country. We remember the Ebola outbreak, nurses were used, and later the allowance was never seen. But this COVID-19 allowance that we protest, that our members have to benefit, and they absolutely benefit. That's why maybe you didn't hear anything from us. And this one also, if they have bring a proposal that is accepted by the general membership, you will not hear from us. But if the proposal goes otherwise, definitely you know that nurses are never a toothless bulldog. We can bite, and if we bite, it's going to be detrimental. Alaji, you cannot cover that story. In fact, in West Coast, it's too much for you. Yes. Yes.
Government have just come up with a press release.
Yes.
That the Gambia government reviews civil service allowance and salaries. Which means the government is currently reviewing the allowances and, of course, salaries. So how do we reconcile this line of action with what the government is working on now?
I think that is a new statement.
Yes, from the government spokesperson.
Okay. Well, I don't know whether that review affected our allowances.
No, it's across the board, like the civil service of the
Okay, the civil service. We will review that. We will review that story. But we are allowances. There are general civil servant allowances, and you can also have specific allowances for specific category of staff based on the services they deliver, like the on-call. On-call allowances is usually done by health staff. You work your normal hours, then you stay over, or you be in your house, you are called again to go and deliver that service. That's basically, the teacher cannot claim on call because they don't do that. So we are going to review whether those aspects of the on-call allowances are reviewed. And other allowance, like specific, we talk about the special location allowance. Nurses that works in intensive care unit. They, all over the world, a registered nurse has to care for one patient. But here is usually you see a registered nurse caring for more than 4 patients. It may be 8 patients in ICU. So you are overworking that individual, which can be detrimental to his health. You understand? Because you have work-related stress disorders, work-related injuries. Even if you are so tired, you can prick yourself with a needle, and you can get HIV from that. And if you get that HIV, hepatitis B, the medication cannot be afforded by a single nurse in this country. So that means it's a death sentence for you. Yes, because no single nurse can afford it.
Of course, this action that the government, or the decision, that the government is about to take to review the salaries and allowances across, board, how much do you think that will affect your decision and the date that you gave, on the 28th of April? Would you consider to negotiate or have further negotiation with the government?
That's why we said we are open to dialogue. This is the last day of dialogue, because negotiation, you cannot protract the negotiation forever. So it has to have a timeline. So that's the timeline we give on the 28th. And if they are committed, I think from now it's almost 3 days now, or 2 days. 2 days is long. It's a long period. They can call us. We're going to review. We're going to review that. We're going to review that allowance. And if it is okay, then we thank them and we will commend them for the good foresight they have. That's definitely that we can go about.
Let me add this. Okay, in addition to what the president is saying, I was going to ask you when that release was made. Just made now. Thank you very much. You see, please. Sorry. I want the media.
Yes. The government spokesperson specifically mentioned, he's saying that, in fact, including the salary increment, the allowance increment you guys have proposed earlier, it will be looked at. So does that satisfy you?
No, my brother, we have had this looked at. We are committed. We will do this. We will expedite. Look at expedite, committed are very, very common words to our ears. We've had them over and over again. And why today? I don't know. Why today? I don't want to start speculating that they are just mere words. But I want to tell you that stopping or solving problems goes beyond mere statements. Actions are needed. Unless there is commitment to action attached to the words that we give to our people, we cannot lead them well. This is the reality.
Then, apart from this statement, what kind of commitment did you guys needed from the government to keep the ball rolling?
Well, for instance, if they call us tomorrow or today after this meeting or on the 28th, we want to see what they have done, just not telling us we are reviewing. How long will they continue to review? I mean, health is a priority. You see, when the whole nation goes unhealthy, no one will do anything. We can't achieve anything. Without health, no goal in the SDGs will be achieved. Let me tell you this. Without health, we are lost as a nation. The COVID-19 pandemic has cracked down the whole world. The world was on a standstill because a health problem came that is more powerful than the world economies, more powerful than the health sectors, the scientists that we know to intervene. For a whole year, nothing is moving. So if a small country in West Africa, less than 3 million people, their health is not valued, how can they move as a nation? So it is beyond words. I'm telling you this. We have heard these words over and over again, telling us we are reviewing. We are not reviewing. A document comes from different sectors. It's not like there is one review committee that will review. The health sector will do their own. The finance sector will do their own. The education will do their own. Bring it to the main board and they sit and discuss them. What has been done from the health sector? That is what we will want to see, rather than just a general statement we are reviewing. Where are we in that review? Are we at first learning from other countries? Is that the level they are? Because it starts from somewhere. You have to make research before you can review and then implement something. Where are we in that review? We want to know the position we are. Not just a mere statement we are reviewing. We could be at the planning phase. And we don't need that. We don't want to live for a century before we can make a change. It has to be progressive. It has to be gradual. And if there is no gradual progress in what we see from their words, what we hear from them, in accordance with the actions, we feel that it is just a way to keep us waiting. Delay tactics. So this is it. The statement is released today. We want to know what it has for us as nurses. What does that review has for us? We want to be sure of that. So this is the point.
Any other?
Please, Gara, tell the government or the one that released this statement that you can never politicize health. You can never bring politics in health. Gambia's health system is the worst in Africa. We are not going to wait for the government to come and tell us, we have this for you. We want to see this in action. We want the government to tell us, we are paying your nurses allowances by next month. And we want to see this happen at the end of this month, I mean. And we want to see this happening end of this month.
I think, okay, if that, Al-Hussein want to say something, I don't know.
Al-Hussein?
Yes. So I think he's just the regional chairman of Western Region 2. So he has one statement. Then maybe if there is no, in absence of any question, the chairman will close. Representative, there is no journalist. No, it's okay. It's okay.
Good afternoon, and thank you to all of you for honoring this invitation. I'm Al-Hussein Mane. I'm a nurse. I'm the chairperson of the Nagam Regional Chapter, Western 2. I just wanted to add some issues like with regards to the question raised by Mr. Gajaga, something like that. With regards to your question, actually Farmara just mentioned some of them. Myself and my the committee members in Western 2, somewhere in December, we went round on a regional tour. One of the regional reasons for going around was to orientate our members on the new executive, but also to make an inside review of what is exactly affecting nurses within that region. We started from Kalaji or Sintet down to Farato. It was a 2-day trip. But it's so appalling, the issues that we found on the ground. There's so much that, we felt it cannot just be left like that. In fact, we are working on our report. Probably when it's ready, it's going to be shared. And we want to devise ways and means of how best those things can be improved on. It's good that the NEC, National Executive Committee, have brought up this issue. One of the issues that was in our findings was the issue of poor motivation or lack of motivation. And then allowances is very crucial as far as that is concerned. But that is just one of what we found. Let's say in the whole of Fonyi Jarol, Sintet, Kalaji, Kampasa, the whole of that area, there is only one midwife, one nurse midwife who is taking care of all the pregnant women around that area. 16 villages. He delivers them, he conducts the care during the antenatal services, and then wherever he is stuck, he cannot manage, he sends them. Okay? That is one. The other issue is, they mentioned about allowances, but in the allowances, it goes around to the whole of basic health facilities in the country. Nurses work on night duties. Night duties is only paid to those nurses in the hospitals. Out of those people in the basic health facilities, a nurse working in Brikama, for example, a midwife working in the labor ward, will conduct up to 12 deliveries one night. That person is not paid for night allowance. So where do you put that one? There are series of drug shortages and consumables. Glove is just one of them. You know, I'm working in Buyam General Hospital. Of course, our chief executive is doing